Okay. Officially, we are starting. So, typically speaking, when I'm streaming, I'm talking about cabinet vision almost exclusively. And if you are a member of the e-support community, you will have seen me talking a lot over the past few months about sort of connecting cabinet vision to Microsoft Access and a lot about ChatGPT. Now, I want to start, I guess, by saying that ChatGPT is extraordinarily stupid. It is. It's hard for me to consider it AI, um, which might have more to do with what I feel like AI should be than anything else. But it's not like ChatGPT could do my job for me. And it's not like I could use ChatGPT to help me out if I didn't have sort of a foundation of understanding in terms of the programming languages that I'm using, the correct syntax, and really understanding the structure and having some vision for what I'm trying to do. So, ChatGPT is extraordinarily useful. It reduces the amount of time it takes me to do things, and in many ways, it very, very quickly creates templates of code or blocks of code that I can either just try to plug in and use. And sometimes that works, but usually it amounts to me copy pasting the code and having problems, to be completely honest. And so this is okay for me. Actually, this is really good for somebody like me because for whatever reason, I've developed this kind of learning style that benefits tremendously from having examples. Examples of things that work, obviously, is very helpful. But in many ways, if I get an example of something that almost works and I have to figure out why it's not working, I learn a lot. And I'm still not really to a place where I could just sit down and write like a VBA script in Microsoft Access. It's not something that I'm that familiar with yet, but I can look at VBA and I can understand it, and I can generally prompt ChatGPT with the right type of question to get the problem solved, or even just kind of figure out what's going on my own. And so, whatever your thoughts are on ChatGPT, and I don't know, there's a lot of negativity about it for whatever reason. I mean, I even expressed it as sort of stupid, but it's an extraordinarily effective tool. And I feel like anybody that uses cabinet vision, honestly, could benefit tremendously from just dabbling a little bit. I think that everybody should really try to open up ChatGPT and just see what it can do for you. Um, it has actually allowed me to get a lot more work done than I would otherwise be able to. And it might even be like considered harmful, I guess, what I'm about to say, but it actually allows me to do a lot more. And I already kind of said this, but it allows me to do a lot more than I should be able to do because it's like this really stupid expert, and it has access to so much information that it can draw upon so quickly. So, anyway, enough about ChatGPT. You're We're gonna use ChatGPT a little bit here to really just to kind of demonstrate what it's capable of. And I'm going to show you something that I've been building for the past 3 or 4 months, with a lot of help from ChatGPT, to be completely honest. I understand, like I said, I understand a lot about VBA, but I could not have done what I've done without the assistance of ChatGPT in the amount of time it has taken. I would have had to have studied a lot more, and my regular work responsibilities that I need to do, other than building this sort of homegrown ERP, would have definitely prevented me from doing this. I'd be still several months out if not for this tool that is ChatGPT to leverage. So anyway, I'm not going to try to talk a whole lot about what a good prompt for ChatGPT is, because I don't know. A lot of times I just talk to it like it's a normal person, and it seems to work for me. I could probably be more successful with that, but I'll let you do your own research on how to build a good sort of prompt to get what you're looking for from ChatGPT. So, anyhow, what I really want to talk about a lot this stream is, it's kind of related to cabinet vision, but in many ways it's not. So I have grown as I've been very open and even vocal about. I've grown very frustrated with Hexagon, which is the parent company of Cabinet Vision. It seems to me like the parts of the software that I want to use or tend to use are not being well maintained. I have several issues with the way that they have brought Combit in to edit reports, and they just don't seem to really be trying to fix it. And so rather than being frustrated with it, I was given the opportunity to build again, all I can really think of to call this is like a custom homegrown ERP solution for the company that I work for, Absolute Closets. And this is a huge undertaking, and a lot of this system for the front end in terms of customer relations, what a lot of people would probably refer to as CRM, customer relationship management, we had this kind of database already in Access. It's something that my father actually started maybe in the 90s, maybe earlier. And this was before he started the business, Absolute Closets. And he had used it to manage his own customers at the time. And so when he started the business, he elaborated on it a little bit, and very, very pretty much immediately got so overwhelmed with the requirements of starting a new business that all development stopped. And at that point, again, it was really just about entering customers and tracking, leads versus sales. And that's where it stopped. There was no hardware or inventory management side of it. There certainly wasn't any production. No production tracking, no labor tracking, no job tracking. And so we worked with this for many, many, many years. Essentially, no work was done on this database until I started working on it maybe 6 months ago initially, but really 3 to 4 months would have been the time that I really started on this. And so we had a big piece of it already. We had a lot of customers. We had, jobs that were sold. We had some basic database stuff like a way to log in and set permissions per user, but that was it. And so I really got to thinking about this, and I decided that I wanted to start to learn about the only thing I've ever really heard it called is building a link between Cabinet Vision and our ERP. our sort of database. And so I took a class and I learned a lot about access. I learned about the differences between, forms and tables and reports and queries. And I already knew a good bit about SQL from the time I'd spent working with Cabinet Vision, but I had no idea how to use the Access interface. So if this is something that you find yourself watching and you're interested in doing, I would very strongly suggest, and it's going to suck. It was very frustrating for me to sit and learn about the interface because all I really wanted to do was go and build my system with it, but I just didn't know enough about it. So I strongly recommend, if you are watching this hoping to maybe do something like this for your organization, take the time to learn the interface first. Sign up for a class. That's what I did. I paid for a course that was, I don't know, maybe, I don't even want to say, I don't remember how many hours. It was quite a bit. I think there might have been 40 hours of actual videos to watch. And the course was really for complete beginners, as I was. And at the time that I completed it, I knew, like I said, pretty much everything about the interface. And I had a really good basic understanding for what I could do. And I think that that's half of the battle, just knowing what's possible. Because until you know what's possible, it's hard to like dream about what you want to do. It's hard to brainstorm ideas. And so, planning is very critical if you are ever going to do something like this, if you want to have any degree of efficiency. If you just jump in, it'll probably be kind of fun for you, but I think you'll get to a place where you're going to recognize that you've done a lot of things that have a lot of mistakes and it's just not working. So take some time, learn the interface, and really plan for what you're trying to do. Think about the different modules you want to build, think about the different ways that you could do that. And then from there, just jump in. So I've copied our database because we actually keep this at work on a server that we back up regularly. It's very important data for us. And if you do something like this, hopefully you understand the importance of backing your data up, because if you build a system that you become reliant upon and then you don't create a good way to back it up and restore, and in the event that like your building catches on fire or you get like a cybersecurity attack, ransomware or something like that, or maybe just one of your employees accidentally deletes it, or maybe you delete it, or maybe it gets corrupted. I mean, all kinds of things can go wrong. And if you're completely reliant on this system to run your organization and you don't have a good way of restoring a backup, it's not going to be worth it. You're just going to cost yourself a lot of money and a lot of grief. And that's just a bad experience. So, yeah. Anyway, enough of the kind of preliminary. I'd like to show the database that I've been kind of working on and some of the different things that I've got going with it. So in order to protect the identities of our customers and really respect everybody's privacy, I've got a few kind of like privacy panels that I'm going to turn on. And because I don't stream regularly, this is probably going to be very clunky, and I apologize in advance. But there you have it. It's very important to me that I protect the privacy of our customers because, yeah, I'm a big privacy person. So anyhow, I'm going to turn some of these on real quick. And as I load the different screens of our database, I'll probably turn some of these on or off. But I would rather have them all on rather than all off. So anyhow, here's a couple of different panels real quick. All right, so First and foremost, if you're going to build something like this, I think it's very important that you create permission levels. You want to have different usernames and passwords for everybody, and they should all have different permission levels, because you're going to have people on the shop floor that you want logging in and using this, but you don't want those people to have access to your sensitive information. So first and foremost, I think it's really good to have like a system login, which is what we've got here. And then a main switchboard. And a main switchboard is something that comes pretty much by default with access. You can come up here, and there's even like an admin tool switchboard manager. And so you can come in here and you can edit it. These are the different like items that you can have on it. And these items really are gonna reference like a form or a report if you're familiar with access. So we have this area where we store all our customers, and then customers can have multiple orders, so we've got a separate area for orders. And scheduling is important, and if you can build something like this to manage your scheduling, that's really awesome as well. If you can get everything that you're trying to do tied together, it's going to save your company a lot of money. Honestly, it's just much more efficient to have everything sort of in one central place rather than in separate data silos. So what I want to show is project management. And I've got, normally when I'm working with this, I work in a test environment, which is kind of what I'm in right now. This is a copy of our system, and it's stored on my machine locally. And that way, as I'm not gonna lie, I am still learning this, and it's very nerve-wracking a lot of times when I go to try something new that I haven't done before. So I like to keep my test environment isolated and separate from our main database. That way all of our data is safe and secure from me. But anyway, so I have this test dummy job that is me. And so depending on the user that's using our system, we have several different project managers. And just a slight tangent, our project managers are what a lot of people would refer to as like detailers or engineers or whatever. We don't really do commercial work, and so we don't have what would typically be referred to as like a commercial project manager or management role. We sell primarily to the public, and a lot of times we're just going out to, John Smith's house, and we're measuring their space and we're building in their spaces. So our project managers pretty much take over the job after a sale is made, and they make sure that all of the hardware orders have been submitted to our inventory manager. They sort of detail the job out and make sure that everything about it is going to work, and send it out to the shop. So project management for us is what I think a lot of shops typically refer to as an engineering role or a detailing role. So anyhow, depending on the individual using our system, when they click this button, they will get a list of jobs filtered just for them. And so in this case, I'm not a PM. I don't manage any projects for the most part. Only when we have essentially some sort of emergency, I guess I would say. If one of the members of the team is out, or just for whatever reason, if we're maybe like overbooked or something like that, if they need me to do a job, I will. But generally speaking, I'm not. So all we're really seeing here is one kind of test job, as you can see, right? It says Ward test order here. But this is like my test job. So I guess you probably can't see everything. Since this is just my job, I can turn these privacy panels off, right? So this is what a project manager would normally be looking at when they come in here to what I would refer to as their dashboard, their project manager dashboard. And so we've got like a list of rooms here, and then in each room, there's a task list. And this was something that ownership at our organization thought was very important to have. He's really big on task lists and tracking your jobs, and I agree. I think it's very important when you have a large volume of work that you can track the steps in your project. And so these were the tasks at the time that I started this that they decided they wanted me to place in here. And currently, the owner of our company is my uncle. My father's retired, and my uncle runs the shop. Well, runs the show, really, I guess. And his name is Moni. And so he's my sort of fake designer here, if you will. And we've got this little thing over here that he wanted me to put in here whenever he would mark his tasks off manually in Excel. He liked to color code, and I agree tremendously with this idea that you use colors so you don't have to read the data. Seeing a color and understanding a meaning is a lot faster. It's more efficient than reading data and dates and stuff like that. And so he wanted me to just kind of create this green box, and jokingly said something like, it's like a little cookie. And I, of course, ran with that. So now, as soon as all of these fields are filled out correctly, this little icon kind of appears. And everything starts out blank for like a new room, as this one would be, right? This fake garage that I haven't filled out. I haven't filled everything out on, at least, we'll say, right? But the idea here was that the PMs could come through here and fill this stuff out the way they need to. And once they're done, they've got a notice, right? So as they're reviewing their projects and trying to make sure that they're keeping track of everything, and maybe like we can't always stop exactly when we want to. Sometimes you have to stop in the middle of something and it's hard to remember where you are. But we've stressed the importance before you go home, or when you are stopping on something, switch over here and just update your tasks, right? Because it makes it very easy to come back tomorrow, or especially over a weekend, and know exactly where you are. And since we've implemented this, we've actually found that we have missed a little bit less. The team seems to be performing a bit better. So that's really nice. Anyway, we've got like a list of machines here, right? And how many sheets for every machine. And I don't have my link built yet to pull actual material types. That's something that I'm working on, so that when we optimize from cabinet vision, it's actually going to drive the actual names of the sheets of material, the names, sorry. So like whether it's a bunch of melamine, or if we got some laminated sheets, or we're doing MDF to be painted or whatever, we'll have that data. And I think that that's going to allow us to actually simplify what has to be put into cabinet vision. And if you're familiar with entering materials into cabinet vision and keeping up with pricing and stuff in cabinet vision, it's very cumbersome. So much so that one of the more talented individuals on the eSupport community has actually developed a third-party piece of software to deal with the challenges. And so anyway, everybody that works at our organization will do a different part of this. And so as our project managers kind of complete their work, they're entered in as batches, which would be like an optimization on our CNC. And they enter the machine that they've output to, the number of sheets and everything, and then mark when they've completed it. And from here, once they do their part, this actually ends up going to a different list. And that would be like the production list. And I'm not going to click on the production view, because I didn't set up any privacy panels, if you will, to block the names. But the production list is just a long list of every single one of these batches sorted by install date, so that our shop can tell without having to like go and look at a schedule um, what they should be working on, and ultimately it kind of tells them what they should be working on, which is really cool. It's a lot easier for them to just kind of show up in the morning and print out a list. I do have a report for both of our CNCs, a report for our edge bander, and then kind of a master production list that our shop foreman will come in the mornings and ideally come in the mornings and print all of these sheets out. And then, each machine gets one, and that way the machine operators know exactly what they should be cutting. The edge bander also gets one, and it kind of tells our edge bander where in the shop the parts should be for the job that they need to process next to get, ready for our assemblers. And so it's all one kind of like tied together system. And we found that it's actually really, really helpful. It's been extremely beneficial for us. And so, what I've really been working on recently, I got this sort of dashboard that we're looking at done a while back. And for the past, I don't know, month or so, I've really been working on really establishing a good, strong link with Cabinavision so that I can import directly from Cabinavision into this system. And a lot of what I've been talking about so far is really just kind of like, hey, look at this like neat thing I did, right? But I've been trying to lay out the foundation for showing you this next part, because I think that this next thing that I'm going to show and that I've been working on is so dramatically superior to running reports within Cabinavision. I would argue nobody should waste their time learning how to build reports in Cabinavision if you can afford the, I don't know exactly what the monthly fee is for an Office 365 subscription to get you access to this program we're looking at, Microsoft Access. I'm not sure how much it costs precisely, but it's not more than maybe $10 or $15 a month per user. And that can add up if you've got a lot of users. But honestly, I mean, we have Office 365 anyway because we use Outlook and because Excel is a phenomenal tool. And, you might go with Google's, with Google Sheets instead. And that's fine. And I respect that. And I don't have any problem with it. But ultimately, I hope to never build a report in Cabinavision ever again. And I don't think I will need to. I'll still have to have a decent understanding of how the reports in Cabinavision work, because there are some things that can be valuable. And I'm still not completely sure if I'm going to be able to get images. As I understand it, getting like DXF images pulled from Cabinavision and imported into Microsoft Access can be a challenge. I haven't really crossed that bridge yet, but it is potentially hard, according to, I guess, the person I would refer to as my mentor in this, somebody who has been very willing to help me out and answer questions when I do have them that I can't solve on my own. And they mentioned that it's pretty difficult to do. I don't know if they've been successful or not, but once I get there, we'll be kind of crossing that bridge. But I just want to kind of create a fake job, if you will, and show how this works. So right now, the workflow for how we're doing this really is that like our front desk, our reception, sorry, I'm just kind of setting some things up. Our front desk that creates these sort of orders. I'll go look at the order for my fake test job, right? Here's our order page. And we've got, a bunch of different tabs where we can do like just different stuff, right? But This is the interface for adding rooms. And so whenever we go out and we go on a potential sales call, a customer gets entered into the system if they have not already been in here, and what is known as like a proposal gets created. When that proposal converts to a contract, when the customer decides, yeah, we like the product, we think the value is appropriate, we'd like to buy, we switch from proposal to sale. And a couple of different things happen that aren't really important to talk about. But when that occurs, the our like accountant, our front office staff is what I'll call them. They review the contract that was submitted from our salesperson, and they create a list of rooms. And the list of rooms is very important because basically, first of all, sometimes we'll have rooms in Cabinavision that we didn't sell. And sometimes we copy rooms in Cabinavision for whatever reason. But ultimately, the point I'm trying to make is that not every room that exists within a Cabinavision job file for a customer is actually on the contract. And so we have our front desk list all of these rooms, and then it's the job of the project manager when they get the job to sort of like pay attention to this list first of all, right? Don't prepare anything that wasn't sold, and also it is very important for them to have the rooms listed exactly as they are here. That means like changing the name of the rooms in the job file, even if it's an issue, because that's the one sort of like link or connection that I've got that does allow what I'm going to show you to work here. So it's very important that we add these room lists, right? And then, oops. So in this case, right, I've got all of these bathroom 1, 2, 3, master closet, garage, guest bedroom, laundry room. I don't have these rooms in my house. I don't have a like huge home with 4 bedrooms and stuff. It's just a fake job, right? And so far, I have processed, theoretically, my garage, my guest bedroom, my laundry room, and my master closet. And all I really had for this while I was testing it was just a couple of different things in each room, right? There wasn't like a whole huge room of anything. And so I'm going to kind of go through that process a little bit here and just show sort of like how this works, right? So again, I will just pretend that I'm drawing bedroom 1 because I haven't imported anything for, or bathroom 1 because I haven't imported anything for that yet, right? So all I'm really doing here is just, putting a few generic cabinets in here. So we've got, it's interesting. Didn't even realize I was doing all talls. All right, so this is just, again, just some cabinets. There's nothing special about this, right? So let's say that I had completely finalized everything. I'm in the role of a project manager, and now I'm getting ready to go to the S2M Center. So go. I'm hoping this works the way it normally does. Again, I kind of like copied everything from our server to bring home with me to do. And I'm not totally sure this next part's going to work the way I think, but we'll see. So here we are, S2M Center. And at this point, I can import my hardware. And I can either import all rooms, I can import the selected rooms, or obviously, right, I need to have a way to cancel it. This was bathroom 1, I think I said. Yep. So bathroom 1, and I want to import the selected rooms, right? So now I see bath 1. I've got, you know, 4 110-degree full overlay soft close. Obviously, at this point, as we're looking at this, I'm not sure why I didn't get these 2 products here to group together on this list. So I'm going to need to obviously work on this just a little bit. I think I'm probably pulling cabinet number in as well on this query. And so it's kind of like, or maybe cabinet class. Hard for me to say. But the point is, I've kind of like built this link to Cabinet Vision, and once you get your rooms drawn, you can import the hardware right into your system. And once you get your hardware into your system, now people who don't have access to Cabinet Vision can start to really just use the data, right? So our master inventory list that I am building right now is going to have every single one of our products that we have in the software, and we're going to have like a location in our hardware room. So when this gets generated from Cabinet Vision and pulled into Access, we're going to have the SKU, so that we can, easily order the quantity, where it's located. And then I've got this fulfilled checkbox over here. And this view right now that we're looking at is not for our, it's not for our inventory manager to pull from. This list is for our project manager to know basically what's going on with their job. Has the stuff been pulled? Is the job ready to go? And I just went through and checked some and didn't check others. Again, just testing. Our inventory manager would see a different page. So you're kind of seeing my little bit of a mess of development over here, but this would be our hardware manager's sort of master inventory list, right? And this is where we've got all of our different inventory that exists within Cabinet Vision. And so again, and this was just an import from Cabinet Vision that built this list. You build your materials in Cabinet Vision. You build everything in Cabinet Vision the way you normally would, the way you would normally have to. But then you can export that list and just build a complete inventory list here, like I've shown, right? And so as we get a little bit further along with this, and as I bring things a little bit further forward, eventually I'm going to hand this off to our inventory manager, and it will be their responsibility to go through and fill out all of the locations, fill out their current amount, the reorder amount, the maximum stock, and then I think I don't have it showing right now. It's something that, again, I'm in the middle of working on, but the actual table for that form that you were looking at is also going to have on order and on back order, which will be our way of really tying everything together. Whenever we place an order, it'll get a PO, and it'll be associated with a job, and it's going to allow us to really very, very easily, after we're done, do job costing. And I don't know. I think it's really neat, honestly. I personally am really enjoying doing this, and I really love the way the systems all just kind of like work together and mesh really well. So this would be our master inventory list. I've got a way for our inventory manager to add items if they want to. And one thing that's critical about a system like this, if you happen to be wanting to do it, is it's very important that you allow everybody to add items, but I think it's important that you add them to Cabinet Vision first, because one of the things that we're not seeing here on this view, but is very important for the connection between Cabinet Vision and your database system, is that you need to have IDs. These are unique IDs. This is essentially the material ID that exists within Cabinet Vision. And so if you allow somebody who is not working with cabinet vision to simply add things on their own, the ID needs to get matched up with whatever ID gets assigned when you make the material in cabinet vision. So it's okay if our inventory manager adds products. I just need to make sure that when they do add products, they share the information with me so that I can get the product added and then either tell them, okay, it's in the software, set the ID for it to blah, 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 or I just go in and set the ID myself after adding it to cabinet vision. So it's important that you do control this. If you're going to build it, you can't just let everybody kind of go crazy on it, or it's going to turn into a mess. But it is important that everybody can add their own items, right? And then, we've got manual adjustments, like maybe we pulled some hardware, but then the customer changed their mind, and they want to just manually add it back in through this interface. But we're also going to have a mechanism for receiving orders and adding back to the inventory. So this would be our master inventory list. And then I don't have forms built for this stuff yet, so bear with me while I try to figure out. All right, so this right here would be one of the different views that I'm going to provide for our inventory manager. I think it's important that when you build a system like this, you can search for something several different ways. And so this is going to be the by batch or by work order view. And so what our inventory manager is going to be able to do is every day when they come in, I'm going to have an interface for them, and they can either search by order, they can search by batch. It's going to be up to them. They could search by customer name if they want to, or job name or whatever, right? If they were to say, I want to just get a list of all of the upcoming batches, sorted by install date. And you don't see the install date here, but I do still have it sorted by install date. If I had more than one job in here, that would be more important. But obviously I've got only my test job, right? But the way this works is as you click on one of these individual batches, you get a list of rooms that are associated with the batch. And then you get, the product that needs to get pulled, the SKU, the quantity, and the location. And so once our inventory manager, they come through, okay, so I've got, I got my hinges pulled, I've got my hinge plates pulled, and I don't know Access well enough yet to get this to actually live update over here at the same time. So, obviously it's not perfect. I'm still doing a lot of learning, but if they refresh this, maybe I'm just a big fat liar. There we go. So just switching the records is apparently what I need to get automated so that it kind of refreshes the list. But anyway, as I checked those off of this list over here, they kind of came over to this fulfilled hardware side of my page that I've built, right? And so this is a very good way for our inventory manager to be able to see each batch. Have they pulled everything for each batch? Did they get everything ready in time for the job? And so as they just kind of, again, as they go through each of these orders, I just created this one you saw. I didn't assign a batch to it. That was something that I had assigned previously, but I did do the import. And so now we've got, these different products for this job. And if I'm pulling the hardware for it all, right, I fulfilled all of those things. And now when I come back and look at this, if I wanted to maybe double check the day before the job goes out, I can come in here and just verify, yes, I did pull every single piece of hardware that was sent to me from the project manager for the job. And I think that this is a much better system than manually kind of like dealing with it in Excel. I am eventually going to equip our inventory manager with a tablet, or at least like a kind of like a mobile computer station, like a laptop on a cart or something like that. And we're going to end up sorting this in such a way that allows our inventory manager to start at one end of our hardware room, and again, this is all based on location. It's up to them to enter the locations for every product that we own within our hardware room. But I am going to get this list sorted for us eventually once all of the locations are in there in such a way that there's no wasted motion. So our inventory manager is not going to wander around the hardware room trying to find the different products, trying to remember where they were. They're just going to start at one end and work their way across the room based on the locations that we've defined. So it's going to be a really efficient tool for them to pull, not only to make sure that they got everything for the job, right? Did I remember to pull all of that? So as they pull something, as they're going by on their mobile station with their bin, if you will, their crate, whatever it is that they're going to pull all of this stuff into, they'll grab from the shelf, they'll put it into their crate, and they'll just tap the little checkbox on their tablet and mark it as fulfilled, right? And it'll drop off of their list immediately. And as they make their way up and down the aisles, fulfilling everything, once they're done, they just take it and stage it in a specific location and then move on to the next batch or the next job or whatever it is. And so I think that, again, this is just another way. I don't think you can do something like this with cabinet vision by itself. Not easily, at least. It's probably possible. And it's not that this was easy, but if you took all the time to build all of this into cabinet vision and get it to spit out, a list with everything located exactly where it is, that's great. That's really great. It does a lot, right? You could get to this point to where you're telling your inventory manager exactly where this stuff is. I have to sneeze just a second. Awesome. Didn't sneeze. It's terrible. I feel terrible now. Okay. Anyway, you could enter all of your locations in cabinet vision, right? But as soon as your inventory manager decides, I need to move this, and they move their hardware, now you, as the manager of cabinet vision, always have to be in sync. And when they move the hardware and they give you the updated location, then you have to make sure you go into cabinet vision and find the product and enter your new parameter data or whatever it is that you're using. Versus with a system like this where you're actually getting everything out of cabinet vision and into a central location where many different people can access it. If your inventory manager decides that they need to move, these hinge plates from 4.2.8 to 5.1.9 or whatever, I don't have to do anything. They just change the location in our inventory list here, right? They just change this location on the product. And then when I do my import, I'm not telling the item where it is. I'm asking our database where the item is. So the data for the product and the quantity and the costs and all of that stuff is coming from cabinet vision. And then it's kind of like merging into this system, and it's pulling information that's defined by somebody who does not have cabinet vision, who knows what our max stock should be, when we should, what our reorder levels should be, what our current amount is. And so as they change this location, then when it comes time to actually pull their hardware, it's going to automatically tell them exactly where they need to go without me having to make sure that we pair our data up. So it's less maintenance, if you will, less upkeep to kind of get things working well. And it really encourages collaboration. And I think that that's a really good thing. So I spent 50 minutes or so just talking about this database, if you will. And if anybody, watching this at some point in time has any questions, feel free to reach out to me and ask. And I'm okay with doing like a more personal individual demo or something like that. But this is about the extent of what I wanted to show for the database that I'm working on. One more thing I liked about this that I actually would like to talk about briefly is this. So we have two CNC machines that we output to, and I don't know if we're unique with this or if other shops struggle with this as well, but it's very well, before I started building this system at least, it was very difficult to know which machine should get the work, and our project managers would regularly have to just ask our shop foreman, and he would tell them. And then, maybe next week he comes back and says, hey, sorry, I didn't realize it. That machine's actually really overloaded. Can you re-optimize this to the other machine? And there are obviously a lot of ways that something like that can be addressed. You could do a dual output, and you could always generate programs and labels for both machines, which is something that I did suggest we do. That way our shop could just pull, for whatever machine they wanted and cut on whichever machine they wanted. But it's not Brandon's closets and cabinets, and that idea was rejected. So, we didn't do that. So what I decided to try instead was to build this sort of like, I don't know, dashboard, if you will. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the privacy panels on real quick. And so this view all jobs button here, you can see it says displaying all job assignments for Brandon. This interface is not just meant for our project managers. This interface is also meant for our project manager's manager, which is not really me. I don't really manage anybody. I don't know. To be totally honest, I'm just kind of the software guy. And so their manager, however, will need to use this. And so if you come to look at this view and you don't have any projects assigned to you, you'll see displaying all job assignments for all PMs, and the button here will actually change to say view jobs for whoever your username is, right? And so you can kind of click and it's going to apply the filter back and forth, right? So this would be viewing the jobs for everybody. And yeah, just a second. All right, sorry, didn't quite have that where I needed it. So I'm gonna click through a couple of these different jobs, and I want to show how these the sheet counts change based on install date, right? So these are the different installation dates, and every one of these projects has like sheet counts for every batch, if you will. And so well, these ones aren't prepped yet. So as I come down here and I have these different orders, right? Of course, I click on one where something is. If we've got a job with an install date that is already passed, it's impossible for there to be sheets ahead of it, right? So this has not come off of this list yet. It could be for a number of reasons. We might still be out at the job site installing, or we just might not have done final billing or something like that. So it's still here, which means that when we select this row, we don't get any data. But if I pick a row down here with an install date that is later than the current day, right? Today is November the 11th, and this install date is November the 13th. We see how many sheets exist ahead of this job that need to be cut. And so if I was the project manager and I'm finishing up my project, it would be a good idea for me to still talk to our shop supervisor and say, hey, it looks like our dynastic has half the number of sheets assigned to it that the Lynx has. I'm going to output this for the dynastic. Sound good? But basically, the idea here is that once the system really, really, really gets completely adopted by our organization, that conversation will no longer need to be had. I know already that if I see half as many sheets on one machine as the other, and I'm about to create a new batch, I'm going to assign it to the machine that has fewer sheets because I don't like re-optimizing my programs, right? And because there's no reason for one of our machines to have twice as many sheets assigned to it. That's just an unbalanced work volume. It's the type of thing that will encourage us to work overtime or be late on a job or whatever, right? Because we've got unused capacity is what it amounts to. So I liked this a lot. I really liked adding this little tool, and the members of our team have also expressed a lot of appreciation for it. They like it quite a bit. So anyhow, I'm going to talk a little bit more, and I'm going to show a little bit of how I have used ChatGPT in case you're interested in maybe doing something like this for yourself, or for the organization you're working for, or even if you're just kind of interested. So ChatGPT, right? And I'm just gonna kind of switch over to Cabinet Vision. Oh, by the way, so after we switched over and we did our imports and everything, then our project manager would actually do the output. And once they optimize and everything, at that point, there would be another data dump into the system that gives us, the material names for the sheet goods and stuff. I just haven't built that into our system quite yet. So anyway, all right, ChatGPT. These are all the different conversations that I've had since April. And a lot of this is just, hey, I've got this problem in Access and it's not behaving the way I expect it to. So what do you think, ChatGPT? What should I do? Or is it possible for me to do this or that? But if you've never used ChatGPT, one of the really important things that I think you should do first whenever you start is state as clearly as you can some guidelines or some parameters, right? So I find that it helps the more specific you are. So let's just say that I would like for a little bit of help building an SQL query. And I want for that query to pull information from two different tables and show them as one new table, right? We do this all the time in Cabinet Vision. A lot of people use FlySpeed for this, and I understand why, but honestly, I think in a lot of ways ChatGPT can do it just as well, and you're not having to learn another program interface. So I mean, if you like FlySpeed, that's fine. I don't use it. I did at one point kind of like explore it, and it is in one of my previous videos, and it's a great program, but I just found after a period of time that I really wasn't using it anymore, to be completely honest. So I'm going to try to use like an actual example. So I've got in our database here, right? I've got, oops. I've got a main table, orders, and then I've got a table batches, right? Table batches. And in this table batches, I've got all of these different fields, right? And so if you're familiar with database management, when you've got two separate tables and you want to pull information about the two of them, like I've got an order from a customer, right? And that order has a number, which is contract. Let's just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But my batches, I am just going to make sure I'm not going to show a bunch of sensitive data real quick. Hold on. All right, so I've got customer data over to the left. I just scrolled past it. But what you can see here is I've got these contract numbers, right? So all of these contract numbers match a record in our orders table. And then they are joined with a group number to create a batch. So contract 10364, group number 2 is known as batch 10364-02. It's got 4 sheets, it's not dynastic, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? So how did I create this relation? How do these entries that are being created by my project manager's team, how did they get related to the order? And so how do we know that, customer John Smith on contract 21458, how do we kind of relate all of that information together? And that's done with a join. So if I were to try to use ChatGPT for something like this, right? So basically, state in very simple terms, which, by the way, I've said ChatGPT is really stupid, but the fact that it can actually interpret these questions, like I'm just writing to it like it's a normal person. The fact that it can interpret what I'm about to send it and actually give me some decent instructions is really smart. It's really awesome. What I mean when I say it's stupid is it's not actually answering your question. It's interpreting your question, and it's pulling data that it judges as the most likely correct response. Again, there's no actual thinking. There's no actual intelligence to this. It's just looking at sets of data and deciding that based on the input, this is the most likely output. So I realize that I'm covering this up a little bit with chat. Sorry. So right, I'm working with some data stored in a couple of different tables and would like some help building a query that displays data from both of them as a single table. What kind of information would you need to assist me with making this happen? This is essentially what we do every time we build a table in Cabinet Vision. We're taking information, usually from multiple tables, and we're trying to display it as one single set of data. All right, so let's just say, again, right, I wrote that question, and I tried to write it at least in such a way that might suggest that I actually have almost no idea how to join this information. Obviously, I know enough to say that, I'm building a table and I have some tables and I'm trying to build a query. So you need to understand the right keywords to prompt with. But if you have enough of a foundation of understanding, you can really work with ChatGPT to get a lot done. So, first off, right, ChatGPT wants to know what database management system we're using. Now, why does this matter? This matters more than you could possibly imagine unless you already know why this matters. So, SQL is definitely a fairly universal, like, database query language, if you will, but the different pieces of software, the different database management systems that have kind of been created over the years have their own twists to the language. And what works in one language will not always work in another language. And that's very, very important to be clear about. So when I'm working with Access and I'm trying to build like a new form, or I'm trying to use VBA or something like that, I very, very clearly state to ChatGPT, I am working in Microsoft Access using Microsoft Access SQL. And that's like the first thing that I state before I start building the rest of my prompt. So, anyway, so it's very important for you to know which database management system is being used. I think that Cabinavision's SQL is kind of based on like Access SQL, but it's also kind of like really just, it's like a bastardized version of it. They've got a little bit of VBA that works with it. I think that there's some MySQL stuff that works with it. I've asked them to provide documentation on it. I like created an idea in the ideas forum so that we could learn how they've customized it, and they told me that that's not an appropriate request for an idea, so it was declined. But I did also post it in the report section, basically saying, can you guys please tell us, right? Because I don't know. I don't think that anybody knows. It's really just um, excuse my language, it's kind of a fuck around and find out situation. So until they provide us more information about it, we really just kind of have to base this on the idea that it's probably Microsoft Access SQL with a little bit of nuances. So I want to just kind of go through this, and I hope this isn't too boring to watch. But I'm going to try to really demonstrate what it would be like if I didn't really know how to build a table or a query and I wanted to work with ChatGPT to get it done. Because I really think that you can benefit a lot from this, as I've said already. So, all right. ChatGPT wants to know what the table structure is. And they're wanting me to list the columns in each table and specify if there are any common columns that can be used to join the tables, right? So how do I know? If I don't know anything about SQL, how do I know? For the table structure, how would I be able to determine whether there are any common columns that can be used to join the tables together? And I'm just using the terminology that ChatGPT gave me, right? I don't think I used the word join anywhere up here. I wouldn't necessarily know that join is an SQL term, but ChatGPT told me that there's common columns that can be used to join the tables. So what should I be looking for? All right, so ChatGPT is showing some stuff about creating tables, and this is where I start to say that, ChatGPT, you're stupid. Why are you telling me this? Because we don't create tables anywhere in Cabinet Vision, and I didn't really necessarily say I wanted to create a table. I said I want to query tables, right? But that's okay. Um, because ChatGPT is really just trying to show us what a primary key is and what a foreign key is. And if you haven't taken the time to go and learn about primary and foreign keys at this point, this would be when I would suggest, oh, okay, foreign key, primary key, right? Go read a little bit about this. But basically, this is telling you need to look for foreign keys that relate to primary keys. If table A has a column that is a foreign key referencing the primary key of table B, these columns can be used for joining. Should look for columns with similar names or meanings in both tables. For instance, if both tables represent employees, there might be a common employee ID column that can be used for joining. So, and match data types, right? They need to be the same data type as well. So you cannot join tables from you cannot join on mismatched data types. So if your ID table for if your primary key for one table is a integer and your foreign key for another table for whatever reason is set up as a string, you can't join the tables, you will get an error. And so the data types are really important, and that's like this data type, right? You've got numbers, text, numbers, date. You want to make sure if you're joining tables that they have the same data type, if you will. So anyway, at this point, right, ChatGPT has given us some pretty good information on that. Let's just assume that it made sense, and I read through it, I understood it, blah, 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 right? So let's see. I know I did not name this stuff very well. Shame on me. As I was learning about it, I didn't really think through all of this, which is why I said at the beginning that I think it's really important that you understand enough when you're building a database to sort of map it out, because contract in my table batches table is the foreign key for my orders table. And my orders table primary key is job ID. And it's not even set as a primary key right now. I'm not really sure why, but it should be, right? So job ID is my primary key of my orders table. Right, it's a linked table, so I can't change the properties here, but whatever, right? So I know that contract from my table batches field is the foreign key for joining my orders table together. So if you happen to be doing something like this, don't do what I did. I was lazy here. Give yourself a description. I think that this is extremely important. I've been working with the data a lot, and so I just know. But once I'm done working with this data and I take a break from it for a few weeks or a month, I'm not going to know what this is. And so if you happen to be building a database, give yourself a good description for this. It's worth it. But anyway, so back to ChatGPT, right? So let's just tell it, right? My table. just a little thing that I'm trying to get into the habit of doing rather than quotes. I'm trying to use like the tilde for um, being specific about like objects, if you will, that I'm referring to, or whatever these are considered in programming lingo. Um, so start out by giving them the table names and explain that explain your primary key and your foreign key, the relationship, the fields that create the relationship between the two different tables. And then at this point, right, very important to not get lazy as you're working through this prompt. Try to be concise, try to be very specific, try to always kind of like refer to the same sorts of things, like orders with a capital O, as an example, rather than just kind of like typing it in lowercase and moving on. Not everything. I want to see every field. So here we are, right? At this point, if you're using ChatGPT, you should just copy this and try it out. So what you would do at this point is you would just go to create a query, and you want to come here to where you can plug in your SQL, right? And just paste it. All right. This is a really, really good example of how ChatGPT is trying, but there's a problem, right? So don't just click OK. Don't even click help. Go tell ChatGPT what happened. All right. I got a syntax error. Right, I'm going to be very specific. Syntax error in from clause. Generally speaking, so the query that ChatGPT suggested is correct. The problem that we're running into right now is that we didn't specify the SQL language that we're using, which is why this is failing. But kind of coming from a place of not necessarily knowing that, I keep covering up my window with the Twitch chat thing, which is not doing anything anyway, but I know because I'm familiar with it that it's just not formatted right for the language. But if you didn't know what happened or why this isn't working, ask what might be wrong. And this is actually a really good response from ChatGPT, I would say, right? These are the things that they want you to check on. Here's the query again with backticks for illustration. If you're using MySQL, are we? I don't know. If you're still encountering issues, please provide the specific database management system you are using. So this, I feel, is demonstrating very effectively what I was trying to talk about earlier in the video, where I said that ChatGPT has been really, really beneficial for me learning. It's teaching right now, right? I don't know what's wrong. I'm trying to tell it as much as I know about the situation. Essentially, ChatGPT is behaving like my teacher right now. They knew exactly what was wrong. They won't always know, or it, or whatever. I call it they. Anyway, so this is a really great example of, we asked a question, we were not clear enough. Our prompt was not concise enough. And so ChatGPT gave us bad information. But through clarifying, we were able to get it to give us a different query, right? And so now we can try this new one. Awesome. Look at that. We've got 277 records, which means that there's probably exactly 277 records in my table batches table. And again, just a second, I'm sorry, trying to respect privacy. So I'm gonna click past these names. But sure enough, table batches, right? 277 records. So that query was perfect because it was an inner join. There would only be as many records as exist in one of the two tables, right? I have way more records in my orders table, but only 277 in the table batches table. So the inner join only pulled 277 records. So again, right, 277 records. So this table that I had it build is relatively useless, or this query rather that it built is really quite useless. But the point I was trying to make with this ultimately is that kind of like acting dumb, I guess, if you will. Not dumb, acting like I don't know SQL and prompting ChatGPT with the right sort of questions is helping me get done what I otherwise would not be able to do. And so you can do this with your SQL. You can do this with VBA questions, right? You can do this with a lot. You can't really do this with cabinet vision UCS because there's not enough data in the world for ChatGPT to have been trained on it unless you train ChatGPT first, which is possible. But yeah, anyway, so that's honestly about all I really wanted to show for this stream. I'm gonna do one more small thing here to show how ChatGPT can help a lot with like VBA. And so I'm just kind of thinking what I might want to ask it to do. All right, here, I've got a good example of something, I guess. One of the things that I set up here was whenever one of these boxes gets checked, it automatically puts in today's date, right? And it removes it if it's unchecked. But we still have the ability to change the date if we want to. So in order to do this, because these are two different fields in a table, this doesn't happen automatically. So this would be a really great thing if you don't know anything about Access even, or VBA or both. This is a really great way that ChatGPT can help you. Um, So I have a form, and it's important that you name everything as much as you can when you're doing your query. If you're vague with your names, ChatGPT will give you a response that you then have to really, really edit, and you have to read through it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it can help you learn. But the more concise you are, the better results you're going to get. So I have a form. I named it, I told them what the name is, with the data source, table batches. That's the source of all of the data on my form. And, my form has a checkbox, sheet goods ordered, and a form control, sheet goods ordered date. When I check sheet goods ordered checkbox, I'd like my sheet goods ordered date field to be populated automatically with today's date. So how would I do that? So we're gonna just go through this, right? We're gonna follow the directions. So here's my form. I need to open my form in design view. So here we are. Right click on the sheet goods ordered checkbox, which is right there. And choose build event from the context menu. So if I right click this. All right, so this is a little bit of a mess, but because I already have this done essentially. But here, hold on a second. All right, so when you click on build event like that, what happens is Microsoft Visual Basic for Applications comes up, right? This is the VBA aspect of Microsoft Access specifically. And so this is just like a little module for that little checkbox specifically, check sheet goods ordered, CHK. And that's the name of my control. And I didn't actually give ChatGPT the correct name. I just said, sheet goods order checkbox or whatever. But at this point, you should be able to copy this. I'm kind of wondering why it brought me to click instead of after update. So ChatGPT did give me a little bit of bad information, but that's okay. You could just copy this and come over here and paste it, and then you could save it and test it. And this VBA is good as I look at it. Like, this is definitely correct. ChatGPT gave us a good answer if I had been accurate with the names of my form controls. So, yeah, I mean, really, that's it, I guess. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I just really think that if more people kind of like leveraged ChatGPT in this way, in general, I think that there would be not that I think that questions on the Cabin Vision forum is a bad thing necessarily, but there's a lot that you can kind of get answered on your own if you use this as a resource. And I strongly suggest doing it as often as you can. It's a really, really, really great resource. You just have to make sure that you have the ability to sort of like analyze what it tells you and make corrections as required. So anyway, that's it for this stream. So thank you for watching, if you're watching. And if you happen to be watching this later on YouTube or something, I hope you get some value from it. Take care.